Hi class, and welcome to another lecture on the Ramayana. And I'm Dr. Jimmy Red. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been teaching world literature classes for a long time at a couple of different universities. And this is one of my favorite works of literature to teach in that class, the ancient Indian epic, the Ramayana, which is still one of the most famous and widely told stories today in modern society in modern India. It's the story of Rama, who was the ideal king or prince and an incarnation of the Hindu god Vishnu, who, because of some promises that his father made to his wife, was ultimately exiled for 14 years. And in the wilderness, he has to undergo many austerities. Notably, his wife Sita is abducted. So in this particular lecture, it's a follow-up to my first Ramayana video that you can find on my YouTube channel. And in that one, I establish much more about the context and about the basic plot of the story. In this lecture video, I'm going to do a quick recap on what happened in the first lecture video, and then I'm going to walk you through some final sections of the Ramayana, notably the sections of his encounters in exile, the loss of Sita, as well as his encounters with the monkey people. We're going to see a couple monkey kings, Sugriva and Vali, and I will talk about also, in a brief recap, his battles with the Asuras, notably Ravana, the leader of the Asuras. And I will also discuss his Sita's test of her chastity, as well as his final coronation and the end of the Ramayana. So to revisit a few things that we talked about in the first lecture, we talked about the context of the Ramayana. It's an ancient Indian epic, as I just said, being one of the most famous stories. And we also talked about key terms in Hinduism, notably the idea of karma and dharma, which is so prevalent throughout this work. And I talked about key Indian gods such as Vishnu and Brahma and Shiva. I also talked about key characters in the work, notably Rama, the hero of the work, Sita, his wife, also the heroine of the work. I also began to introduce you to Lakshmana, who is Rama's brother, and Rama's father, Dasarata, as well as his mother and stepmother, Kaseyi and Kosala. We talked about the hunchback Kuni as well. Now we are going to look forward to what's happening in the last half of the Ramayana. Where we left off, Rama had just been exiled and is going out into the wilderness to face severe austerities with Sita and Lakshmana. The readings for our section this time, you can see the page numbers from the Narayan Shortened Prose Translation. I strongly recommend buying that from Amazon if you want to read along. It's the Penguin Classics version, the shortened modern prose version of the Indian epic. It's much easier to read and more accessible. See the pages that you should read for this particular lecture. It's the chapters on encounters in exile, the Grand Tormentor. I have a couple of portions from the Vali chapter and portions of When the Rains Cease. We skip a lot of chapters and then move on to the Interlude, the Coronation, and the Epilogue. But if, on the other hand, if you don't have that textbook, you still can read along. There's a free online link to a different translation of the work there. I have the chapters or the pages that you should read in that translation listed below. That particular link has two different chapter page numbers. There are page numbers listed up at the top and then some at the bottom. That's why I list the page numbers as represented there, pages 123/130. So up at the top, you'll see page 123. At the bottom, you'll see page 130. And I also list the section or heading numbers of what I'm wanting you to read. In that case there, that'd be Aranya 1. And this is from the particular chapter called the Aranya Kanda. As I talked about last time, each section of the Ramayana, the 7 sections are called Kandas, and this one's the Aranya Kanda. I also want you to read pages 135 through 169, or another way to see that is Aranya sections 17 through 68. You'll read some sections from the Kiskinda Kanda that I have listed below, and you'll also read some sections from the Yuja Kanda as well. So let's talk about the chapter in the Narayan translation. It's called Encounters in Exile. In the other translation, it's called the Aranya Kanda. So what are we going to read about in this section? We'll learn about some of Rama's encounters in exile, where he, along with his brother and protector Lakshmana and his dutiful wife Sita, face awful monsters, including Surpanaka and Marika and the evil Ravana in the Grand Tormentor chapter. Sita will be captured by the demon Ravana, and this is going to set the stage for Rama's great quest to recover her in the last half of the epic. Of course, there are many different spellings or transliterations of these different character names, and that's just something we're going to have to deal with because they use a different Sanskrit alphabet than our phonetic alphabet. So there are a lot of different spellings of those characters. You'll see one spelling there, and I'll use another spelling later. That's the spelling from the online reading, and the Narayan translation has a different spelling of Surpanaka and Marika. Rama goes deep into the forest in this section. He'll resist the temptations of luxury, but nevertheless he'll find hospitality at every turn because the ascetics and sages that he runs into in the forest who are also retreating from society in order to purify themselves are his hospitable. Remember from last time we talked about how in Hindu religion it is praised those who resist the temptations of the flesh, and instead focus on holy things like dharma and karma. Along the way, in his forest journey, he's going to encounter an old friend of Dasaratha. That was his father, if you remember from the last lecture. His old friend, in different versions, has different names. In this one, it's Jatayu. He promises to protect him as if he were his own son. And this is Jatayu. In some versions, in the online version, he's a vulture. In this one, he's an eagle. He will factor into the story later during a great battle that we're going to see, a battle with Ravana, where he tries to save Sita. And it's important to note this theme of protection. Not only does Rama offer protection, but he has many other people who help him along the way, who offer him protection like a good father figure would. And Jatayu is one of those characters, and Lakshmana is another. Looking at this chapter continued, Rama's character defined. If you're in one of my regular classes, that's one of the things that I ask you to do in your quizzes is to define the character of Rama. We see an example here of his character. He never loses sight of his main purpose. He knows what his purpose is. His purpose is to encounter and destroy the evil in this world, the asuras. These folks are led by Ravana. They are fiends who infest this area, and they cause suffering and hardship. This is why they are evil. To all the good souls who only want to be left alone to pursue their spiritual aims in peace. His other goal is to abolish fear from the hearts of men and gods and establish peace gentleness, and justice in the world, and he never loses sight of that aim. Rama encounters a wolf in sheep's clothing and Kamavali, who is really the demon Sorpanaka in disguise. She lusts for Rama and envies Sita, speaking evil counsel against her. And these are two of the fivefold of Hinduism. Desire, an excess of desire and envy. We'll also see the theme of deception and trickery in order to gain what one wants. Notice Sorpanaka's character. She wantonly indulges in many of the fivefold sins of Hinduism, and this is hinted at as one of the reasons why she is such a demoness. Notice how jealousy affects her. And this is going to be a key theme in this section and also in the Grand Tormentor section, is the effects of jealousy. You can connect this to the Arabian Nights in that way. She was shriveling in the heat of passion, as it had once been for Sita. And this is a chapter that we skipped over, the marriage of Sita section. It's the same love sickness that proved a great torment to this monstrous woman too. Everything irritated her and aggravated her into agony. When the moonlight flooded the earth, she roared at the moon. And we're going to see if you go to that page number there, you see all kinds of different ways in which jealousy basically unsettles her and causes her to be unbalanced. These are the reasons why jealousy is such an evil, according to Hinduism. But Rama will not listen to Sorpanaka's requests and attempts to persuade him through offers of power. He knows his destiny. So she tries to persuade him through beauty to be her lover and her husband. But he knows his destiny is not to be married to a demoness. And then once she reveals her true form, then she uses other attempts to try to persuade him. She offers him power. She offers him knowledge of magic of the Asuras in order to defeat them. But Rama resists all temptation because he has his ultimate goal in mind. Her jealousy and her thirst for retribution toward Sita cause death to her kinsfolk and trouble to Rama and company, because she won't leave. Lakshmana chops off her pieces of her body, her nose, for instance. And her jealousy and her thirst for retribution in regards to this cause death to her kinfolk, because she enlists them into her service in order to gain revenge, and Rama and Lakshmana deal with them handily. So we see the negative effects of jealousy there. Now, moving on to the section on the Grand Tormentor. For the other translation, you can also see where that is in my earlier video. In my earlier part of this video, it tells you what pages to find this section. Then we're introduced to Ravana, the ultimate antagonist of this work. In this section, take a look at how the kings of the earth are afraid of him. He is ruling many of the kings of the earth. He's got power, and yet he is an evil man, or god, or demon, if you will. He's driven by lust and anger, all fivefold sins in Hinduism. So we see how this lust and anger, if it drives an individual who's in power, can cause great fear and can cause disruption in a leader. So this work is warning against that. Sorpanaka, who is disfigured, comes to Ravana in a plea for vengeance. This is her kinsman. Notice how she appeals to his lust in order to get what she wants. She says, Rama has a woman who should be yours, Sita. And Ravana's interest shifted from revenge to love. So Sorpanaka is jealous of Sita's love that she is receiving from Rama, and also jealous and envious of her beauty. And so that leads to suffering. as well as Ravana's indulging in his anger and most notably lust here. Observe how lust, or an excess of desire, paralyzes and torments Ravana, as we observe on pages 76 through 77. We see he flings himself on his luxurious bed. He lays there tossing, unable to rid his mind of Sita's beauty. It was a total obsession. He felt tormented and raged against his surroundings, which appeared to aggravate his suffering, and so on. His inordinate desire causes disastrous effects on the world around him. He says, banish all seasons. As a consequence, there was a complete standstill in time, and mankind was lost in a seasonless confusion. So we see how lust, if indeed it is put imbued within the power of a person driven by lust, can even cause these effects. Looking at the Grand Tormentor section a little further, Ravana appeals to his uncle Marika to conquer Rama and gain Sita for him. Marika has forsworn a life of violence in favor of spiritual existence because he's been defeated by Rama before. But Ravana has power over him, and Ravana drives him to this unholy purpose of separating a man and wife. Marika does not wish to do this. He is loath to do this. He is trying to live a good life, but Ravana and his lust forces him to do this. Marika tries to persuade Ravana against this on pages 79 through 80, offering him good advice to no avail. You'll notice the fates or destiny at work as Marika disguises himself as a deer to lure Rama away from Sita in order to unfold Ravana's evil plot of abducting her. Sita longs for pretty things, as Ravana is also apt to do, and this is one of her shortcomings, and this is her undoing. The fates were at work, as it says there. Lakshmana again offers good advice, another theme in the work. It's important to listen to good advice. But on this day, Rama does not listen, longing to please his wife, who had been so devoted to him. Rama is driven by a blind determination, a challenge, and a desire to please his wife. Sita, though, does not maintain her calm when she hears screams in the distance. Rama has gone off to catch this deer, and she hears screams. She thinks it must be Rama in pain. Yet we know, the readers know, that these cries are Marika's after Rama disposes of him. Lakshmana's good advice that no harm can befall him, that can befall Rama, she does not heed. This is because of her utter devotion to Rama, and she threatens suicide. And only this threat phases Lakshmana. She urges him to go help Rama, to leave her and go help Rama, but Lakshmana knows that Rama can't be hurt, and so he says, no, there's no reason for me to go. In other versions, she suggests that he is betraying Rama. She suggests that maybe even indeed that he wants Sita for himself. Ravana, like the wicked queen in Snow White, pops out from behind a bush the moment Sita is unprotected. He is also in disguise, showing the power of deception, as we've talked about in other instances. He attempts by various means to lure her willingly to his side. Sita, though, is a model of devotion to Rama throughout the rest of the work. He attempts to lure her. He has to forcibly abduct her. He can't touch her, so because of a vow that he's made previously. And so he, in this version, he lifts up the ground under her feet and takes her with him. He can't touch her unless she willingly consents to being touched. And he tries many different ways in order to lure her, but this is one of the key aspects of Sita. She does not cheat on Rama. Ravana abducts her and seeks to seduce her in a myriad of ways, but she's not swayed. And Jatayu remains heroic and true to his word till death, trying to fight off Ravana from stealing Sita. He is an exemplar of a true devotee. as are many others that we're going to run into in this work. Now, we're going to take a look at the Vali section where Rama finds another one of his great heroes, and this is arguably his greatest hero on his side, Hanuman. We're going to encounter Hanuman. We're going to read portions from the Narayan retelling of the Vali chapter and When the Rains Cease, where we will be in the land of the ape men or monkey men, Vanaras. These are called Vanaras. And Rama's going to meet his famous monkey friend Hanuman. If you are in my on-ground classes, Hanuman is one of the characters that I usually ask you to identify on your quiz. He is the Vanara general leading their armies. Rama gets entangled in a struggle for power between two monkey brothers, Sugriva and Vali. And this is Rama's famous controversial misstep. If you're reading the online sections, this would be the Kiskanda Kanda. The narrator says of this section in the Narayan translation, the perfect man takes a false step. That's Rama. Apparently, he commits a moral slip, and we ordinary mortals stand puzzled before the incident. Rama was an ideal man, all faculties in control in any circumstances, one possessed of an unwavering sense of justice and fair play, yet he once acted, as it seemed, out of partiality or half-knowledge in haste, and shot and destroyed from hiding a creature who had done no harm to him, not even seen him. This is one of the most controversial chapters in the Ramayana. There are many arguments as to why he may have done this. Of course, Sita has been abducted, and he's very troubled by that, and he's willing to do anything to gain her back, and Sugriva promises an army to help in getting her back. We're introduced to the Vanaras in this section, a monkey people who live in the forest of Kiskanda. They are endowed with extraordinary intelligence, speech, immeasurable strength, and nobility. In other translations of the Ramayana, after Sita's abduction, Rama is deeply troubled, driven out of his wits, and paralyzed by Sita's abduction. So we can see the effects of grief, that theme there. This is summarized in this translation as, he was subject to human limitations of understanding, and he despairs arising therefrom. We're going to read a little bit later in the sections on Where the Rains Cease about some of the specific ways in which he is bothered. Now we're introduced to the general of the monkey man army, the Vanaras. His name is Hanuman. He's a faithful devotee of Rama and a great hero in his own right. There's a whole kanda devoted to him, but we're kind of skipping over that for the sake of only being able to cover so much in one sitting. Feel free to read it, though, if you want to. It's an exciting kanda. We learn of Sugriva's story that he uses to appeal to Rama in order to get him to kill Vali. He has told him that his wife has been stolen from him. And of course, that appeals directly to Rama, who has had his wife stolen from him. So he has sympathy with him. And he hopes to have the kingdom in his power and his wife back. And in doing so, if he does so, he will aid Rama in regaining Sita by putting his armies behind Rama's efforts. Vali, like Ravana, has been granted a boon from the gods that makes killing him very difficult. So we have several characters in this work who we have these problems involved because of past promises that have been made. Time and time again in this work, we see how promises can come back to bite us in the future, in the case of Dasarata as well. We see Rama's grief and regret at not being able to protect his own wife from abduction on page 96 during the story of Dundubi. Rama is ever also, it should be noted, the one to protect and restore religious places to sanctity. So not only does he protect Dharma and various other things such as his wife and family, he also restores and protects religious places. One of Vali's key problems is the fivefold sin of anger. So you could also, if you want to talk about that theme, you could talk about it there, the negative effects of anger. After Rama kills Vali, his sense of fairness is questioned. This, again, as the narrator noted at the beginning of this chapter, is one of the most controversial things that Rama does. He shoots Vali in the back without Vali knowing he is there. And so his sense of fairness is questioned because of this. And Vali's words ring true. He criticizes him. He says, Rama, the Lord of culture, breeding, discrimination, and justice, how could you do this? You have destroyed the firm basis of your own virtues. Is it because of the separation from your wife that you have lost all sense of fairness and act recklessly? And he speaks of the repercussions of this bad example. If indeed a leader does these things, if indeed the greatest role model does these types of things, does it not potentially justify others who do these things? That's one of the negative effects of doing bad things, no matter what your position in society is and the amount of power that you have. Rama presents an argument in contrast to what Vali says, blaming Vali's inordinate anger and lust for Sugriva's wife as the reason why this is happening to him. And Vali argues that his society's values differ from Rama. So this is a really interesting argument to take a look at. Both cats have different sides. Eventually, Vali accepts the argument, noting it was an ethical dilemma, and he relents to Rama's eternal judgment and ability to see the bigger picture. Feel free to criticize those conclusions, though, if you wish. Moving on to the next section in the Narayan translation. Sugriva is crowned as prince and promises to aid Rama in its battle against the Asuras. They must wait until the monsoon ends. Rama offers advice of how a good ruler should act to Sugriva. He says, gather around yourself those that have integrity, courage, and judgment, and with their help, govern your subjects. Rama explains how he should guard the interests of his subjects and how important gentleness in speech was. So ideally, Rama meets these aspects in his own rulership, and so he hopes that others will do these things as well. So this is a lesson to kings and how they should behave toward their subjects. They shouldn't get they shouldn't be egotistical with power. It is here where we learn of the consequences of failings and making fun of Kuni and how they had played part in Rama's own karma. So Rama hints at the fact that the two promises came back to bite him whenever Kuni persuaded Kaikeyi to get those boons from Dasaratha in exiling Rama. And he hints that the reason why Kuni might have persuaded Kaikeyi to do this is because Rama, in his own youth, made the mistake of making fun of the hunchback Kuni. And so that was his just deserts. That was his own karma. Rama forswears pleasures of palace living again, as he cannot stand to enjoy luxury, quote, when perhaps his wife Sita is undergoing untold suffering somewhere. So again, showing his ability to sympathize with others in their suffering. Rama undergoes much turmoil in the wait through the monsoon rains. So he has to wait a long time because the monsoon is coming. And when the rains cease, Lakshmana discovers that Sugriva has given over to the pleasures of this world and is lost in drunkenness. After a scolding, Sugriva finally gets himself in order. So it should be noted that Rama has chosen this king, Sugriva, over Vali, and we see the failings of this king in his drunkenness. So he's not perfect in that sense, and it's a warning. You should follow Rama's example and how he and Lakshmana and how they comported themselves during the monsoons, as opposed to getting lost in the pleasures of this world and forgetting your greater purpose, as did Sugriva. So we're going to skip over a great portion of this work. What happens in between When the Rains Cease chapter and the interlude, coronation, and epilogue that we're going to read. This is a really fun part of the story, and it's sad that my classes are skipping over it. Feel free to read it if you want to. But Hanuman undergoes a great quest to regain Sita and discover intelligence on the land of Lanka, the land of the Asuras. They build this giant bridge in between India and Lanka, which is probably Sri Lanka, which is a little island off the southern coast of India. This is the land of the Asuras. There are great adventures, and there are many battles between the monkey armies and Rama and Lakshmana and the Asura armies. There's much bloodshed on both sides. Ravana's family and champions are one by one defeated by Rama, Lakshmana, and the monkeys until he himself is defeated. Yet Rama, without spite, it should be noted, again, plays a good example of how you should treat your enemies once you've destroyed them, buries them in honor. He emerges a victor, and he regains his beloved Sita. So that's what we're missing here. Then we get to the interlude. Finally, we read portions of the interlude, the coronation and the epilogue. This is the Yuja Kanda, if you're reading online, where the battle between Rama and Ravana is decided, and Sita is returned to him, but she must be tested by fire to prove her purity. Rama is then crowned king with Sita his queen, and that section is from the Uttara Kanda. During all of this, Sita has been in a state of mourning during this part that we're skipping over. She's completely neglectful of her dress and appearance because she misses her husband, Rama, and she immediately rose to go out and meet Rama as she was because of her joy. But Hanuman tells her Rama's wish is for her to meet him in full splendor. And this is an interesting reaction by Rama when he famously meets her. It kind of reminds me of how Penelope reacted toward Odysseus when she met him after all of those years, how she acted cold toward him until he proved himself. Rama, interestingly, acts moody and cold toward her. He explains that he has done what was his mission and his duty to free her, and he explains why: not to attain personal satisfaction for you or me. It was to vindicate the honor of the Ikshvashu race and to honor our ancestors' codes and values. So this is what Hindu society says people should do. They shouldn't act out of their own personal self-interest, but out of the interest of greater ideas and values. He says, I must tell you, it's not customary to admit back to the normal married fold a woman who has resided all alone in a strange man's house. I leave you free to go where you please. So this is an interesting action by Rama. Feel free to criticize it. That he doesn't accept her back. He doesn't trust her. It seems as if that's one way to say, although you could say because Rama knows what's going to happen in advance, that he does trust her. He just knows what has to be done in order to prove to everybody else that she's pure. Sita's heartbroken and courageously asks for a fire to be built into which she will throw herself to prove her chastity to everyone. It should be noted that Rama goes along this without emotion or reaction, as if he knows what will happen, as if he has faith in destiny. You could say that he's heartless, that he doesn't care about Sita because of these actions. But the work is implying that he has faith in destiny. Time and time again, we see that he reacts to bad things that happen in life without passion. And this is supposed to be a good example. This is supposed to be how one should act in situations such as this. You have faith in how things will end up. Don't let yourself get caught up in the trappings and sufferings of this world. Agni, the god of fire, honors Sita's prayer and protects her. Rama, now satisfied that he had established his wife's integrity in the presence of the world, he welcomes Sita back in his arms. Rama explains that he had to adopt this trial, that should be trial, in order to demonstrate Sita's purity beyond a shadow of a doubt to the whole world. The narrator comments about how Rama, in the Narayan translation, about how Rama's test of Sita seems contradictory and a possible lapse of judgment. The gods who had watched this in suspense were now profoundly relieved, but also they had an uneasy feeling that Rama had perhaps lost sight of his own identity in the fact that he did this. Brahma comes forward to remind Rama of his destiny and of the limitations of his human form, how he's capable of making mistakes because he's a human. Rama also gets to meet his dead father Dasaratha, who is brought to him as a ghost here, and the man has lost all grief because Rama has brought things back to normal finally. Rama, in his great grace, demands that Dasaratha forgive Kaikeyi, protecting another person. Dasaratha is hesitant to do this, but Rama, time and time again, shows his status as a protector. In the epilogue, we see Rama returns to Ayodhya and he accepts the throne back from Bharata, who, even though he is given bad advice not to give it back to Rama to stay as king, shows that he has faith in the grand scheme of things here, and he gives the crown willingly back to Rama. And then Rama installs Sita as his rightful queen, and his rule is a long and good one. So, my friends, this brings us to the end of our discussion about the Ramayana. It's a great work of Indian literature. I know that we didn't talk about all of the chapters of the work, but if you have extra time on your hands, feel free to read those other chapters. It's pretty exciting, a bunch of battles that go on throughout this work. And I invite you to think about how this connects to other works of literature in this course and outside of this course, as well as your own personal life. I've talked about several times how it connects to the Arabian Nights and the Odyssey and other works of classical literature. But until the next time that we talk, I wish you all peace, love, and understanding.